Hi, good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our version of a grown-up book club. So first and foremost, I want to thank the members of the administrative team, most especially my assistant Katie Michelson, for helping to put together tonight. Join me in thanking them. Yeah. We appreciate Chief Anchor of Boys Latin News One, who's filming and live streaming as well, to our friends out in the ether. Hello to those of you watching virtually this evening, and thank you, Steve Pentrick, for being here. Join me in thanking him. So look, I got a couple confessions I want to make. First of all, you all as families received a letter from me at some point in the spring that I had assigned to my administrative team and to our faculty back in April or May. Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation. Is this ringing a bell at all? Okay, good. Don't tell your sons what I'm about to tell you. The truth is, I practice really bad pedagogy. The book came out in the first week of April. I was at a conference with a number of other heads of schools regionally, and I raised in that group, had anyone seen or heard Jonathan Haidt speak yet? And there were a lot of blank stares, kind of like what we saw from your sons on Tuesday and Wednesday of last week. Okay, interesting. I'll just sort of put that away. So then I was together towards the end of that month with another group of heads from schools from sort of the Mid-Atlantic region in general. And I raised the same question. I always ask my fellow heads, kind of, what are you reading and what would you assign? Always looking for something that's going to be a little bit provocative. Maybe make you think. Maybe ask some questions. Maybe stir something. Shake the dust off your eyes a little bit. And I'm talking about faculty colleagues here, right? We're not talking about kids. And again, similarly, there wasn't this kind of reaction. I thought, I think we're missing something. And so I spent a little bit of time, what my wife likes to call dipping the book. Have you ever dipped a book? It's how I got through graduate school. It's basically topic sentences of paragraphs, chapter by chapter. No, I'm kidding. I actually read some of the book. And I realized that the point here is I realized it was causing me to ask questions in a way that I thought, I'm perfectly happy talking to myself all the time, but I thought it might be good for our community to talk about this. And so without having completed the book, I assigned it to my colleagues. And they indulged me. Actually, they were voluntold they would read it. So that's how it went. We shared with you over the summer the work that we as a school had done around the anxious generation. Our administrative team spent a lot of time together in workshops and retreat over the summer, probably 8 or 9 days altogether. And 2/3 of that time together was spent working with the text, really trying to understand Haidt's research and some of his conclusions and things like that. And to be clear, this is not a straight up adoption of somebody else's set of beliefs. But again, it's how do we think about his perspective, what he has observed, what he's researched, what he's seen, and how it might apply to our lived experience, to your son's lived experience. And it was through that work with our administrative team and then working more broadly with our faculty that you heard from us in early August. I think it was August 5th or 6th, that our goal this year was really to give boyhood back to your sons, to find ways that they could engage and really stretch and grow for themselves. Haidt makes the point, that we have overprotected children in the natural world over the last couple of decades and underprotected them in this artificial world where, the sort of the natural consequences aren't necessarily there. And in fact, as a result, have exposed them in certain ways to the challenges that we've seen play out. And so we spent a lot of time kind of processing that as a group. So as we were working through all of this, we knew that as we shared some of our decisions, and some of our plans for the coming year that might cause some questions from our parent community. And we wanted to find a way to make sure that we all could engage together. So here's the last of my confessions for the evening, and then I'm going to introduce a colleague and sit down, much to your delight. I was expelled from the only book club I was ever a member of. And that was about 25 years ago. Thankfully, Amy, my wife, is not yet here tonight to verify independently the causes of that expulsion. However, in formative years, I was a young teacher at a boys' school in Potomac, Maryland. Do we have any parents of varsity soccer players who are here tonight? Right, so our boys are going down to the Heights School on Saturday. That was the first boys' school that I taught at some 27 years ago. And their headmaster was a guy named Joe McPherson, and Joe really believed that parent nights were really meant to be conversational. So he had, and it's a different age and different size school. It's only 350 boys, grades 3 through 12. It's a much smaller place. So the parent communities were smaller. They had a room that was literally the living room of the school. It was about a third of the size of our dining hall. And parents and faculty would gather, and often the headmaster would ask a question beforehand. He might assign some light reading. There would be food and especially beer and wine served for an adult conversation, and then we would take it from there. So it's really in that spirit that we gather tonight. It's in a spirit of fellowship and curiosity, but most of all, with a deep appreciation for the work that you do as parents and the trust that you place in us as a school. Know how grateful we are and how for 1 second we don't take it for granted. You'll hear tonight from several of my colleagues who will give you a view of what it's been like on the front lines over the last 10 days. And then you will break into discussion groups, and we'll give you some framing questions, and you'll have a work product that you'll be assigned to do before the evening's out. So if at the break you try to make a run for it, know that we're going to Katie bar the doors, and clearly we're holding your phones hostage. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce our academic dean, Brandon Mollett.
Well, I have the wonderful pleasure to introduce my fellow colleagues, the division directors and the school counselors as well, and as well as introduce some of the insights into why we feel this text is applicable to our school life, our school itself, and our boys. Behind me, I have the mission of our school, which you can read. I'm not going to read every single word of it, but it's only 2 sentences. And we feel very strongly that a lot of the aspects of Heights work align with our mission. Again, as Chris said, there are aspects that we can all question, we can dig into and find fault with, but the gestalt of it, the general thrust behind it, that our boys need opportunities to succeed and fail on their own. They need opportunities to grow into the people that they are, not the people we want them to be all the time. And they need the space for that, are things that are embedded in this mission. If you look at really dig and start pulling this apart, we want our boys to have character, to have this strength and courage to do the right things. This requires them to be secure, to have the confidence, the self-confidence, to know that they can be vulnerable and others can be vulnerable around them. And that's really at the heart of what this character piece means for us as a school. Now, they need to practice that, whether it's in first grade or as seniors. They need chances for that to happen without adults telling them how to do it. And that's hard, and it feels uncomfortable at times because we know, right? We've been there. But we need to let them have their experiences because they develop these through the natural consequences of missteps around this. And we really feel like we do understand how boys learn best. And one of the ways boys learn best is through experiences, through doing things, holding things in their hands, by having the opportunity to really be exposed to the world around them. It's not always through books, and it's certainly not always the same through technology and screens. When a rocket flies through the air, when a kid trips and stumbles on the field, those are lived experiences that are visceral and they carry with them. And that can't always be and certainly won't be replicated on a screen. And then personal relationships, I think, is really fundamental to a lot of Heights work. Screens A lot of what he claims to cause some of the well-being issues are a result of isolation. That isolation is often a result of fear of being exposed, fear of difference, fear of all those things that happen because it's risky to be in a relationship. You have to be vulnerable in order to be in a relationship. You have to develop trust. You have to let yourself be out there. And we want our students to have that trust. We want to model that as adults. We want to make sure they have the confidence to develop these personal relationships and have the compassion to know that others are flawed just like they are. We're all flawed. And then empowerment. And this is a really important piece. You know, as the mission says, we want to empower each student to strive for his personal and academic excellence. We want them to feel like they are capable. Not that they're perfect and not that they're going to get it right all the time, but they have the capacity to be better. They have the capacity to overcome obstacles. They have the capacity to persevere. They have the capacity to change course, to do things differently, to take on new challenges. We strive to empower them as educators to take those risks, to extend themselves, to have that confidence. And then the last piece we feel is that if you put these all together and our boys walk out that door as seniors or whenever they walk out the door, they're going to be in a position where they can continually, not just in these halls and during this time, but continually strive to be better, to strive for their own personal excellence. And that's a journey that doesn't necessarily stop when school ends or when we become old and gray like some of us in this room. And so we feel that while not all of Heights' work is directly applicable to our boys, the Gestalt is. And we feel like we've been doing this well for a really long time. And it's important, and we have the opportunity to leverage that to continue to have your boys go out into this world with the capacity to take on all the challenges and all the complexities and all the nuances that they're going to face and not need us anymore. And be their own human beings. And that's really what the division heads and the counselors are going to express to you and share with you. What does that look like each day for your boys, whether in lower school, middle school, or upper school? And with that, I'm going to introduce Greg Schnitzline, head of our lower school.
And joining me up here is Adele Black. She is our lower school counselor. We're going to share some slides and messages and some things that we took away from Hate's book that are in action right now in the lower school and involve some of the planning we did over the course of the summer. Mine's pretty easy from the aspect of Hate recommends in the book some things that I felt we were doing really well, but could do a little bit better. And the quote he says in there, 3 big ways to improve recess: give kids more of it. And he was talking about all ages, not just lower school and our youngest boys. Middle schoolers need recess and upper schoolers need that time too, but give kids more of it on better playgrounds with fewer rules. Those are kind of contrary to our normal operating procedure, but we do a lot of those things already in the lower school. And I start by saying give kids more of it. And that's one of the things we looked at this year is basically how can we, I want to say for lack of a better term, jam in some more recess during the school day. We have a scheduled recess on opposite sides of lunch from our PE period. So recess is a mandatory one day, every day, 5 days a week for our boys now. But we're looking at other times to do that. And one opportunity that came out was doing this before school. Selfishly, that was there are a couple benefits that we've seen from that, which is, first of all, our kids and parents might be getting here a little bit more on time than they have in the past. And that's stemming from the boys being more excited to be here in the morning. We just started this Monday, but if you look, our playground's alive. The boys are active instead of the passive going into the classroom, reading or drawing, which are great things to be doing. They're getting some of that energy out or building energy in the morning, which they may not have brought with them to school each day. And that's an opportunity that I think we were already seeing some benefits from here in the lower school. And I think the last is that's really one of the times we've seen for our opportunities for our boys of different age groups to kind of mix together. I have some evidence of that, which is it's one of those beautiful things. But having those different age groups, fifth graders with kindergartners, and all across the board in between is really an important part of the boys Latin experience, but also our lower school experience as well. Next ones are pretty good. And I think it says one of those things he also speaks about are better playgrounds, or at least having better options. And I say what's behind me, we're front and center. The lower school playground's right over here. If you want a visual, I'll tell a quick story because they're here. The Timmels have two boys in our lower school. At the beginning of the school year, before school even started, Lexi Timmel was in the building, and I knew the boys were in there, and we have a new assistant head, and I wanted him to meet some boys. And I said, Lexi, where are the guys? I want to go have them get a chance to meet Mr. Rhodes. And I took Mr. Rhodes, and Lexi said, they're outside on the playground. So I brought Mr. Rhodes out to the playground. I looked at the playground. No Timmel boys anywhere. But I could hear the Timmel boys somewhere. So instead of choosing the static playground that's behind me that they'll get an opportunity to play 170 school days, Timmel boys were back here behind these trees where a whole world exists for our lower schoolers. And I can't really tell you what's back there, but they do enjoy being there. So when we looked at this and opportunities we could provide for the boys, and Hate's work talks a lot about this, is some really unstructured play time for our guys where they get a chance to work cooperatively, work things out as a team. And I'll kind of show you what we came up with. It's based on some of the things in there, and we call it our creativity playground, but it's an area that's really it's an area, and you'll see what it looks like. This is yesterday morning before school with all K-5 lower schoolers out there in the back corner. There's a lot going on in that video, from little younger boys working together. They're picking things up and building construction. There's imagination going on there as well. And that's been a huge change. And it also has been this great outlet for some of the boys who may not want to be in a competitive sport every single day, who might not want to be playing on that playground every single day as well. And I'll let them share a little bit about what it's like. So you're going to see some fifth graders. Whoops. There we go. And I had a chance to grab some fifth grade boys who were out there working, and these are their words to share with you.
My name is Jackson. My name is Ollie.
What grade are you guys in?
Third grade.
All right. Tell us about our outdoor space.
This is our outdoor chamber area.
Okay.
You see these milk crates as like here for walls. And the plants come in handy for roofs. Guys, should we roll 1 3 or should we roll 1 2?
What's the best thing about this area?
Is that you can build anything. Like if we built a house, mansions, we can put it up, and now we started working together and we started making structures.
I love that. What you may have not noticed, in that pile of tires, there was a boy in there. He chose to be in there and had that on there. They went on a whole tangent about what that was about, but it's kind of decided to stop right there. But so just some of those things, and Miss Black's going to get into that piece, but really a chance for those guys to work together. You see them doing it right there. You saw them doing it on that, and it just has tapped into I think an outlet for some of our guys that they just didn't have that before. We're a week or so into it, but I see it as this evolving area that we're going to build with. It's going to keep changing throughout the school year, and it's been super successful. We're looking for weird objects to go in there. So if you do have anything that may fit into the playground, just contact the lower school. And I'll let Ms. Black talk about some of the other benefits and things that we've taken out of this book. Change the slide. I know they're great. There we go. Ms. Black.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'm the counselor in the lower school. It's my second year here. First time in like 25 years that I think I've had summer reading. So it was good though. It was good. So unstructured play, right? That's the goal. With that comes conflict, and that's what I'm going to kind of get into. During the course of the day, you can imagine that we see many examples of kids who are having difficulty regulating their emotions. And you can probably think of some examples that happened in the last 24 hours in your own house. So it's pretty normal, right? But what we know is that when we step in as adults to make more rules and regulate the social interactions, we're depriving them of the opportunity to develop those skills themselves naturally. So every interaction a child has with another person is like a little mini social experiment. They have to experience the feedback in real time with natural consequences, even when there's conflict, like really especially when there's conflict, because there will be. And even though it sounds peaceful to have a life at school with no conflict, it's not our goal, actually. And we would never achieve it if it was. So what we really need to do is let them experience it, empower them to assess it for themselves. So figure out, is it a small problem, big problem? Big problem, okay, we're here, we will help you, we will help triage, we will model, we'll intervene if we need to. But most of the challenges that come up during the day are small. And the kids really, really, really want us to know about all the problems. So we have to validate them. We have to. We can't dismiss them. So it might sound something like, yikes, like that was really unkind, or that sounds like that was really distracting or annoying, or whatever it was. Did you try fill in the blank? We do model the use of an I statement, right? So I feel X when you do Y. Not I statements. So there was a little guy that said, oh, I thought you meant like I have to look at you in the eye. So like right track, wrong train, okay? In the lower school, we teach problem solving skills like rock, paper, scissors, ignore the annoying behavior, those things. And we want to let them tell us about their successes in those experiments. And we also want them to tell us about their failures. So it really pays off to listen to their failures just as much as we want to listen to their successes. So really, really listen, not try to fix, not try to offer another solution, just quietly listen. Because when we don't try to fix the problems and we let them do it, we're adding another notch into their confidence belt. You're showing them that you believe that they did the best that they could and that they'll find a solution eventually, even if it didn't work out perfectly this time. So it's hard to watch them struggle through a tough situation, but every time they do it, they figure out what works and what doesn't, and that information is sort of banked for the next time and the time after that. So in the end, if the idea of fewer roles makes you squirm a little bit because it may cause more conflict as the boys work it out themselves, try to remember that that's kind of the goal. That's what we're going for. We want to see them tinker with managing conflict as much as it naturally occurs in the environment. An environment that's safe and secure, right, where they are here, with lots of referees available if need be. So at the end of the day, healthy conflict builds their confidence, their resilience. It's good and necessary for their development, for their brain development. So thank you.
Now, Henry Melker and Cassidy Bells from the middle school. Thanks, everybody.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for making the time in your busy week to gather as a community. This is a really special opportunity. Like Mr. Schnitzline said, Henry Melker here. This is my fourth year at BL. This is my first year in the role of middle school head. And I'm reporting to you, as Chris alluded to, live from the frontier of adolescence. Middle school, it's where the action is. And so it's glorious. And so if we're thinking about the middle school student experience, one of the ideas from Haidt's work, The Anxious Generation, that really resonates with me personally is this idea of phones and screens writ large being experience blockers. Obviously, being the oldest K through 12 college prep institution in the Mid-Atlantic, part of our job is to provide an experience to develop our boys academically. And it doesn't end there. That's where it begins. Our job is also to help them develop personally and also develop socially. And so reflecting on Heights' work and how we want to apply that coming into the middle school, obviously any self-respecting middle school student is going to push against any boundaries, against any expectations that are thrust upon them. And so really we're thinking about how structurally we could set our kids up to have a free range experience where they have the opportunity to interact with each other without screens around. So structurally, one of the main changes that we made was to push back our academic start to the day to 8:30. Last year it was at 8. In part, sure, that's to align with the upper school's later start to the day. It also, recent brain science speaks to the benefits of that in terms of adolescents getting a later start and more sleep. But we really wanted to set them up to come to school and start the day in whatever way they wanted to. Obviously, we have adults there, but whether that means going to open gym Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, whether that means going to open academics, which is in the library, or whether that means they're going to actually schedule a time with a teacher for academic coaching in a class where they might be behind and they want to catch up, or they're already in a good place and they want to get ahead. We built in this office hours time. And so the way the kids get access to office hours, as you've seen, is first and foremost, they have to check their phone at the day. And we have an adult at every single phone case who's making sure with a list that they're putting it in the right place. And I got to say, no disrespect to anybody here, but I was hoping that our box here would look a little bit more like our 8th grade box, but adults, we've got to do what we've got to do. As well, structurally, what can we put in place to make sure our student experience is top notch? During the day, we can control so many variables. And as everybody in this room knows, the day doesn't end at the end of the school day. If a kid has a phone, they're taking it home with them. And there's plenty of time at home for them to engage in so many ways. None of us growing up in school had the opportunity to text or to jump on Snapchat or to hop on a video call or to record anything with their phone. And so it's incumbent upon us in the middle school especially, where we're really teaching them how to be citizens of the world, to calibrate where they're coming from, where they're at, and where they're going. I don't think there could be any more important part of our job than making sure that they're learning how to be responsible digital citizens. And so one pretty major investment that we made in the middle school this year is with programming through something called the Social Institute, which is teaching social and also emotional skills, basically life skills, through the lens of responsible digital citizenship. We're putting the Social Institute, we're running it twice a month during advisory period, which we're really lucky insofar as that's built into our day, opportunities for character development. Last, we rolled out innovation today. This was our first period with innovation. Innovation goes, it happens 2 blocks every 7-day cycle. And this is an opportunity where kids can opt into anything academic and also anything active. So they could join chess, they could join Wizards of Wall Street, just as they could join improv or pickleball. So I just wanted to share with you some of our innovation offerings that went live today. And if you have a middle school boy at home, I would encourage you to check in with them and ask them, what did you opt into? How did it go today? I could speak at length about so many of the unique offerings that we have up here that we've never put forward before. I'm going to spare you, and I'm going to cede the stage here to Cassidy Bells. Cassidy is our middle school counselor. Thank you guys for coming tonight.
What, as Henry said, and what I want to share with you is that so much of our middle school and the programming is so intentional. You might peek into a classroom and think that it could be close to off-the-wall fun or somewhat structured fun. But all of that time, from the adults' perspective and from our programming perspective, is really there to help the boys have that real life practice, to have that feedback in real time. Because when you're online or on a phone, you don't get that real feedback. And so we have this sacred space together in the school day where they get all of this practice face to face. And they need that practice to make friends, to negotiate a sleepover, to figure out who you want to invite to your party. All of those things that are really hard in middle school, negotiating friendship changes. All of these things are happening all of the time in our middle school, and our job is to help them through that. And they only really learn how to do it when they have that practice. One of the nuggets that stood out to me from Hate's book was he said that the main feature of play is that mistakes are not costly. And I think that's so important when we think about what our middle school boys face. We didn't have to have our pictures up from when we were 11, 12, and 13 on the internet, or have the threat of something that we said in a group text screenshotted. Those are can be costly mistakes. We want to give them practice over and over and over again to have low cost mistakes or no cost mistakes, to make a joke that doesn't land right, to say something that you wish you didn't said and repair. Those skills are what really empowers our boys to be men of character. One of the things that we talk about in middle school constantly, like ad nauseum, is making mistakes. And so really what the brain science shows us is that with a growth mindset, which is what you have when you make mistakes and that you know how to make a positive change out of that, and when you give boys that same level of self-efficacy where they can solve those problems themselves, that we were talking about laying those seeds in lower school and building those skills in middle school, those are the two biggest predictors of life and job satisfaction. These are life skills. This is why it's important. It's not just a tagline. It's not just a phase. These are the things our boys need. And because of that, we're dedicating so much of our time during our school day to help create environment for boys to have a safe space to make those low risk mistakes. So now we've been through one full cycle in the middle school. And I would say our no phone policy isn't new. It is better to have them locked up. The boys honestly kind of exhale when they put them in, and their reaction to us has been really positive. But we've also added another layer. The boys can't be on their computers unless given direct instruction from a teacher. So that means that all of those transition times, or what could be a little downtime, is now time for play. So you should see them in the morning. We've already got 15 new board games and a board game cabinet because the boys pull them all out in the morning. They're always finding ways to have fun, and they're playing ping pong in my office, running around outside. The boys, when given the opportunity without their screens, are taking it, and they're having so much more of that real life lived experience. But I'm going to let the boys tell you a little bit more. And I'm happy I could talk forever about all of these programs, but please ask me questions about them later.
And I don't have a phone at school. I feel more free. If I have my phone in my pocket, I see a buzz, I would usually go, oh, what's that? But when I don't have my phone, I feel more focused, more into it. I just feel more free. Like I don't have to worry about what's going to happen on my phone, what's on social media, none of that. I just feel more focused into locked in at school, focus on my things.
And we really wanted these to feel like natural and edited. These were one takes.
I feel this year, no cell phones in school is a nice way to not be distracted during the school day when you're working and trying to stay focused on the tasks that have to be done by the end of the day.
Last one.
Not having phones makes it so we're more engaging with our friends and our teachers. Also pulls us off our devices throughout the whole day, because we don't use as much computers and stuff throughout the school day now. But it's really allowed us to just be more free than playing games all day.
All right, thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions afterwards, I'm happy to talk to you. Next up's our upper school.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Wazlowski. I'm the upper school head, and Megan Kenny is joining me this evening. She's our upper school counselor. Just to let you know what's going on in the upper school, because if you're a lower school or middle school family, you may not have paid attention to what's happening up there, but they're coming to me at some point across the big boy side, as I always say. So we do a way for the day. And I'll tell you kind of how I came up with that to really make the decision about where it was going away. When the boys arrive at school, the boundaries of our walls are where we don't see phones. So as soon as they walk in, you will see, if you visit us next week for back to school night, you will see that we are a phone-free community. So when you walk in the doors, that's our boundaries. We're still working on that in the afternoon because the second they get them back, that's it. But they are required to check their phones with their advisor. We all have a little case. They have their names on the top, and we put all the phones in there. As we've said, we've only are 7 days in, but I hand it out and they stick it in the box. I have an advisory of 7 juniors, and they just know it goes in. There's no debate. That's just what's happening. So that's been great. Here's a few about our boys. Now, my boys are less willing to say that it's really great. And there's always like, where are you putting this? Who's going to see it? So I'll give a little commentary of what they've really said after you see this.
Boys Lions always had a great community, but now it's much more vibrant. Students are engaging with one another and teachers much more than they have in the past.
So the phone policy, I really don't have any specific story. If anything, it's been helping me lock in a lot more during free period and getting some more work done. But no further distractions. Just having a backpack during class is also embarrassing because you never know if it can go off or not. And sometimes I would often forget to put the silent button on, which is a real pain in the neck. Anyway, it's not phone policy. I really think it's a decent simple policy. And to help us stay locked in and do well in school.
It's weird that those sort of big change for me, but I think that it's nice with all my free time. I'm able to get more work done during free periods, and you're able to connect with your friends more rather than always being on your phone during the day.
So Braden is in my advisory, and Mr. Penchek did these for me. What he said to me on the first day when he came to get his phone back, he goes, you know what? I really feel like a better person now that I'm getting my phone back. And then I was like we were by ourselves in my office when I was handing my phone back. So these are the things, and there's these little snippets throughout the day of a teacher will respond like, they really are so excited not to have their phones. It's that willingness to just be available for learning. And that's really been the theme of, that's really been the theme of like the why. So when we read this book in the summertime, I really was going back and forth about where the boys should have their phones, because I feel like you're going into I have these boys that are months away from going to college, but should we take their phones? And I really was leaning towards like, they need to keep them off and away in their book bags. And it's going to teach them this is going to be a great lesson to them to learn. And then I kept on reading, and the book really had me push into other research. And really, I thought, what can we control? What can we do for these boys? They're not in college yet, right? So I did decide to really say, okay, we are going to take their phones. And it really is, and you have teenagers, and if you have teenagers or you see teenagers out to dinner, even if their phone is near them, it's always vibrating. And if you take a look, the average is they get 240 notifications every day. So, and that would happen all throughout the day. So the mere presence of their phone on them distracts them. They don't have the front part of their brain to get off the ramp. And you'll notice this was one of the images from the book, a hook model. And marketing companies use this model. Social media companies use this model to keep us on our phones. There's that trigger, the action, you get the likes, and you just want more of it. It is like a drug. And so what I and all the upper school faculty really is like, what can we do so we can make them more available for the learning that we really want them to do? We have not ramped and changed things we've done in the upper school. They are engaging in discussions. They are doing Socratic seminars. They are up and learning. But just by that away, all of them is available to learn. all of them. And it's been so awesome to see. Just a little, like I had some Legos that I was using for one of my lessons because I teach forensics, and I just had them sitting there just randomly. I just didn't put them away. And the boys came in, and during the free or during Invite, they started playing with the Legos. These are juniors in high school. This is Megan's son in my advisory. And then at the end, they're like, can we get some more Legos? I'm like, absolutely. So, and then today we are going in to have a junior advisory. And there has been Baltimore Sun newspapers on the table since I started here 3 years ago. I've never seen one person touch them. I walked into the library today. There was a circle of boys, junior boys. They all had the papers up. I would have loved to grab my phone and take a picture, but I do not have my phone with me during the day either, which kills me because I love to take their pictures all during the day. But it was just that thing. And then the last thing, too, is they had a free period. There was a bunch of seniors and they were going outside and they're like, can we get the spike ball? I'm like, absolutely, go outside. So they got the spike ball and they walk out and they go, does anybody have a watch? And they were like, how are we going to know that we have to come back in? So the one kid's like, oh no, I got a watch. And someone's like, there's a sundial on the side of the building. So it's just so funny. I told Ann Whitman to start selling watches, so look out. But it was really cool, just those little things that like, those are seniors and like they were just going to their college counselors and now they're going out to play spike ball during the day, and because we haven't really ramped up, we only had 7 days of school, but there's those moments that I think that have really brought, like they really are enjoying the freedom of not having their phone. I think they think they're trying to break us though, because they're being really loud. They're like, we're going to break you that you want to give us our phones back. Because they are really loud. Like the first day my advisor, I said, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do this. Because usually they were like on their phones and now they're just loud. They're talking and it's such a great, like, it's just a warm vibe that just wasn't there the last 2 years, which is really just because they don't have their phones. So nothing magical. There was a big buzz because Boys Latin was the first school in the area to just take their phones. They said, what are you going to do? And what did you say? I'm like, we said we're going to take their phones. That's it. So, we just told you that. We didn't do a lot of other things. I hope that was okay. But and it's been working, and I'm so excited that they think they're going to crack us, but they will not crack us. So there's so many other benefits too, and Megan's going to speak a little bit more about that right now, just about the research and the upper school.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. And just to add and echo so much of what all my colleagues have said already, and certainly what Amy has said, I do have a junior, so I am alongside you in the trenches. And as we were leading up to the start of school, the $1 million question in my house was, so like, Mom, like, how long are we doing this? And I was like, it's a thing. We're doing it all year. So like, for real, all year? So that question has since gone by the wayside, I will have you know, at my dinner table. But that was the number one question of, this is just temporary, right? And the reality is it's not, and we feel really, really good about it. As Amy said, the boys have done a fantastic job, and there is nothing better than the amount of noise that is in the building and hearing a bunch of boys laugh and tell jokes and just be totally engaged with each other. They're opening themselves up to, yes, learning first. We are a school. But one of the reasons you likely chose Boys Latin is we do more than educate the boys, right? We look at the whole boy, right? And they are having fun. They're building relationships where if their earbuds are in and they're on their screen, they're closed off. They're not available for a conversation. They're not available to build those relationships. And now they are. And I know that seems magical that all of a sudden, but it is wild when you eliminate that phone from the equation, what happens. And I walked through the building on the first day just saying good morning, and one of the advisors said, I can't hear you. And one of the students was like, yeah, it's because you took our phones. We're really loud. So it's, they're loving being able to say that. But the obvious reasons, and we know this from reading Height's book, is, we're responding to the results. We know that one of the direct reasons that there has been such an uptick post-COVID, especially, but also with these screens in teenage anxiety, teenage depression, is a result of excessive screen and phone use. We know that. So we have the information, we have the data. Why wouldn't we respond to that? And that's really what we're having the courage to do, which obviously speaks to our mission so well. And really, as Amy said too, it validates all of the things that we're doing already in all of our divisions and in the upper school. For teachers are excited. We're excited that we have a hand in the rewiring of the teenage brain. How cool does that sound? That's amazing, right? we have a hand in that, and we can do that inadvertently. We can support their mental health inadvertently, organically throughout the day by checking in, asking questions, making eye contact, hearing about what's going on. You know, the boys can't hide behind a screen. They're engaging with us, and that means a whole lot to us. So that part is huge for us. And I think also another thing that we pride ourselves on is we meet each boy where they are. And, you know, while our 9th graders are not where our 11th and 12th graders are, and while we are a college prep school, they're with us now. They're not away at whatever they choose to do after Boys Latin. They're here. And so we have to recognize that. And they're not ready necessarily. Their frontal lobe's not fully developed, right? They don't necessarily have the self-discipline and the regulation to turn it off, right? And so we're helping them build those healthy habits. And honestly, they have been responding really, really well. One of the students earlier in the year was like, you know, I think my grades are going to go up. And another kid was like, bet, for sure. So, I mean, they're having these conversations, they're talking about it. And so I'm just really grateful that I have the privilege of being alongside your boys and hearing that and experiencing that. You know, and again, I'm a little biased. I'm a mom of 3 teenage boys, and you know, people who say, "Gosh, boys don't have so much to say." What do you do as the upper school counselor? And I'm such a firm believer. Boys have so much to say. They're just not always invited to the table. And our boys are at the table, and they are ready, and they are diving in. And so we're excited for all that brings with it. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to kick it over to Mr. Post.
Join me in thanking my colleagues for their thoughtful presentations. So here's where you get involved. In our preparing for tonight, we heard from many of you wondering about the format for the evening and hoping to have a chance to be in conversation with one another. And so that's what we'll do. So we're going to say thank you and farewell to those of us who are joining us online as we break off into table discussions. And now for some audio.